threat actors still capitalizing on the Crowdstrike incident. There is new Telegram malware known as EvilVideo. PlayRansomWare is now targeting ESXi. Credit card skimmers are found in Magneto e-commerce sites. BreachForums DataLeak. Mandiant warns of Vishing being on the rise. North Korean fake IT worker tries to infiltrate KnowBe4. 2 additions to CISA's KEV catalog. All that and more in today's episode of the Cybersecurity Digest. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cybersecurity Digest, where our goal is to help you stay informed so you can stay secure. Today is Wednesday, July 24th, and I'm your host, Greg. To our first-time listeners, welcome, and to my return listeners, welcome back. As always, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to check out my show. If these episodes help you stay informed, I would greatly appreciate it if you could please share this show out with a colleague or someone you know who likes staying up to date on the latest cybersecurity news. Outside of the show, I'm currently working on some ways to get your feedback and suggestions. Until I can get those stood up, please feel free to leave me comments in the Podbean app or on YouTube. Eventually, I would like to have some interviews with security professionals on this show to either discuss their latest discoveries if you're a security researcher or about your job position. If that is something you would be interested in, please let me know, as I would love to have you on the show. All right, enough with the miscellany. Let's dive on into our first story. Malicious actors are continuing to capitalize on the Crowdstrike incident with rampant social engineering campaigns looking to take advantage of desperate IT staff or unsuspecting victims. On Monday, July 22nd, Crowdstrike posted that they were aware of a malicious Word document that contains macros being used to spread an unidentified info stealer that has now been dubbed DALPU. Crowdstrike states in their alert that this document impersonates a Microsoft recovery manual to be used to repair machines affected by the recent blue screen incident. The file titled New Recovery Tool to Help with Crowdstrike Issue Impacting Windows.docm was analyzed by Crowdstrike and revealed that upon execution, the macro retrieves a second stage DLL from a specified URL. This DLL, once decoded, executes the DALPU stealer, which targets Chrome and Mozilla browsers to collect credentials and cookies. The malware task kills the Chrome process, then steals the aforementioned credentials and cookies from those browsers and stores the data in a file titled result.txt in the temp folder. After being collected, this data is then sent to the command and control server. The information stolen includes the system's MAC address as well. Crowdstrike has listed a Yara role, Falcon log scale queries, as well as IOCs in their blog post to help you detect if you or your organization may have been impacted by this stealer. To read this blog, please check out the show notes for the latest information. Telegram users, be aware that there was a new vulnerability discovered by ESET Research. On Monday, July 22nd, Lucas Stefanko with ESET Research published a story on the new vulnerability that affects the application for Android users. This exploit allows attackers to send malicious payloads disguised as multimedia files through Telegram channels, groups, and chats. Due to the nature of the vulnerability, the researchers have given the vulnerability the moniker EvilVideo. ESET researchers discovered the vulnerability for sale on an underground forum back on June 6, 2024, and reported it to Telegram 20 days later. Telegram patched this vulnerability on July 11, 2024 in versions 10.14.5, and all newer versions have also been remediated for this as well. In the article, ESET describes how the exploit works, making a malicious Android payload appear as a 30-second video. When users try to play the video, Telegram displays a message suggesting the use of an external player. ESET also noted in the report that by default, media files are set to download automatically when the conversation is opened. When the user goes to play the video, they receive a prompt stating, "App was unable to play this video. Try to play it with external player." The user would then be prompted with either a cancel or open button. If the user taps the open button, they are prompted to install a malicious app disguised as the external player. This app is downloaded as an APK file but appears as a video due to the vulnerability, which led ESET researchers to believe that the vulnerability was with the upload process itself. Unfortunately, ESET researchers did not get a chance to analyze the malware and only were able to get a sample from the seller. ESET notes that Telegram for the web and desktop were unaffected by this vulnerability. As stated previously, this vulnerability has since been patched, so if you are a Telegram user, ensure that you have downloaded a version that is patched for this vulnerability. If you would like to read more about this specific vulnerability as well as ESET's findings, there is a link to the full report in the show notes. Moving right along, TrendMicro's threat hunters reported on Friday, July 19th, that PlayRansomWare, a notorious ransomware group, has evolved their tactics and are now targeting VMware ESXi environments. TrendMicro had first detected the Linux variant of the malware back in June 2022. VMware ESXi environments are commonly used by businesses to run multiple virtual machines that host critical applications and data. Compromising these environments can significantly disrupt business operations and encrypt backups, making data recovery difficult. The Linux variant of the PlayRansomWare is compressed in a RAR file with its Windows counterpart and has managed to evade security detections. TrendMicro linked the discovered sample to a command and control server that had been utilized to distribute the Windows variant of the ransomware, as well as various tools including psexec, netscan, WinSCP, WinRAR, and the Qubz backdoor, which were also used by the ransomware group in previous attacks. TrendMicro noted that the ransomware checks if it is running in an ESXi environment before executing its malicious routines. If it is not, it terminates and deletes itself. Once confirmed, it executes a series of shell script commands to scan and power off all VMs, set a custom welcome message on the ESXi host, and encrypt VM files, including disk, configuration, and metadata files. The encrypted files are appended with the extension .play, and a ransom note is dropped in the root directory and displayed in the ESXi client login portal. TrendMicro makes several suggestions to mitigate the risks of such attacks, such as implementing best practices for securing ESXi environments. These best practices include regular updates, strong access controls, network segmentation, as well as a comprehensive backup solution. Additionally, organizations should monitor for indicators of compromise, or IOCs, and employ threat hunting queries to detect and respond to potential threats. For the list of all of the IOCs TrendMicro found, please check out their report linked in the show notes. Credit card theft has been around for a while now. However, the tactics on how these have been stolen have continued to evolve over time. On Friday, Matt Morrow with Security reported of a new technique that is being used by threat actors to conceal a persistent credit card skimmer on Magneto e-commerce sites. The skimmer, observed by Security, captures payment information from the checkout page and exfiltrates it to a domain named Amazon-Analytic, which was registered in February 2024. This method allows the malware to survive multiple cleanup attempts by using swap files, specifically bootstrap.php-swapme, to load malicious code while keeping the original file intact. The attackers leverage swap files created during an SSH session to maintain the malware's presence on the server, evading normal detection methods. In the article, Matt Morrow states, and I quote, "It became evident that the attackers were leveraging a swap file to keep malware present on the server and evade normal methods of detection." End quote. If you'd like to read more about this malware or the mitigations you should follow to help prevent this malware, you can find a link to the full article in the show notes. And another item I just wanted to briefly also mention, here is another discovery from ESET research, this time regarding a sophisticated Chinese browser injector named hotpage.exe. This malware, initially detected as adware, deploys a driver capable of injecting code into remote processes and intercepting browser traffic. The malware's kernel component leaves the system vulnerable to other threats by allowing any process to communicate with it and leverage its code injection capabilities. The interesting part from this investigation was that it revealed that the driver was signed by Microsoft, which raised concerns about the abuse of the code signing process. The malware's installer decrypts and installs the driver, which then injects libraries into the browser process to alter their execution flow. The driver also hooks network-based Windows API functions to manipulate browser traffic and redirect users to ad-filled pages. The vulnerabilities introduced by the hot page driver expose systems to more dangerous threats, allowing attackers to gain system privileges or inject malicious code into remote processes. The driver has since been removed by Microsoft as well. Overall, I found this research incredibly scary and fascinating, and if you would like to read more of the full in-depth analysis as well as review IOCs, the original research is linked in the show notes. Yesterday, Tuesday, July 23rd, Lawrence Abrams from Bleeping Computer reported of a data leak impacting users of BreachForums. Abrams stated that last week a notorious threat actor named Emo leaked the personal data of 212,414 members of BreachForums 1.0. This database had previously been for sale for over $100,000 on a hacking forum last year. The seller at that time had shared the data with Troy Hunt of HaveIBeenPwned.com, who was able to confirm with Bleeping Computer that the leak from Emo contains the same data. The leaked information from the breach contains email addresses as well as IP addresses. I will personally be very interested to see if this data is used over the coming months to make any connections between forum users as well as their real-life identities. Guess we'll just wait and see if that comes back to bite anybody in the ass. To read more about this report or similar breaches, check out the link from Bleeping Computer in the show notes. Alright, in another story, Mandiant reported yesterday of the growing threat of AI-powered voice spoofing or Vishing Attacks. In the article, the researchers from Mandiant highlight that AI can now mimic human speech with high precision. This is going to make phishing-style attacks even more of a threat to organizations, and in fact, the report highlights of an incident where this type of technology has already been used to steal over $25.6 million from an organization. The article goes on to highlight how this can be used in various phases of the attack, including initial access, lateral movement, and even for privilege escalation. In the report, Mandiant highlights some great prevention techniques that you and your organization can implement, such as educating users, verifying sources of calls, and some other methods as well. To read more about the steps you can take to prevent these types of attacks, the full article can be found in the show notes. As AI technology continues to grow more robust, this is definitely something to be aware of. I recently attended a local B-Sides where there was a talk on this topic, and it is scary to see how accurate these tools are becoming, and it is definitely something that you want to ensure that you are staying up to date on, as well as I would highly suggest that you inform your family and friends of these types of social engineering campaigns so they can be aware. In other social engineering news, KnowBe4, a company known for their security awareness and training, posted yesterday on their blog about how they unknowingly hired a fake IT worker from North Korea. The company recently faced an insider threat where they hired a software engineer who turned out to be a North Korean fake IT worker. Despite thorough pre-hiring checks, the individual used a stolen US-based identity as well as AI-enhanced photos to pass the vetting process. Upon receiving their workstation, the malicious insider immediately began loading malware. This was detected by KnowBe4's EDR software. KnowBe4's SOC quickly intervened and was able to ensure that no data was lost or compromised on any of KnowBe4's systems. KnowBe4 went on to describe the attack as follows, and I quote, "How this works is that the fake worker asks to get their workstation sent to an address that is basically an IT mule laptop farm. They then VPN in from where they really physically are, North Korea or over the border in China, and work the night shift so that they seem to be working in US daytime. The scam is that they are actually doing the work, getting paid well, and give a large amount to North Korea to fund their illegal programs. I don't have to tell you about the severe risk of this." End quote. Additionally, in this article, KnowBe4 shared a stock photo contrasted to an AI fake that had been submitted to KnowBe4's HR. I highly suggest you read the article as well as KnowBe4's recommendations. If a security awareness and training company can have this happen to them, you should ask yourself if your organization's HR department would have caught this. To check out this fascinating read, you can check out the attached article in the show notes. Alright, another report that I wanted to mention here before we conclude today comes from Huntress. Several researchers from Huntress reported last week about the malware SOC Ghoulish, aka fake updates, which had been observed since July 4th to push remote access tools. Huntress notes early in their article that infections typically begin as a result of a user visiting a malicious site that prompts the user to receive a fake prompt to update their browser. In this case, this has been leveraged by malicious actors to push the remote access tool AsyncRAT. This article got really in-depth and it is super well put together. If it sounds like something you're interested in reading, I've linked it in the show notes. I highly suggest that you check it out for all the details, as well as IOCs related to this specific attack. Alright everyone, it is time to head over to our CISA KEV corner to inform you of additions to the CISA Known Exploited Vulnerability Catalog. Since our last episode, we have 2 additions to the Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. First up is CVE 2024-39891, which impacts Twilio's Authy API. Twilio Authy is a popular tool used for MFA. The National Vulnerability Database notes for this vulnerability that in the Twilio Authy API accessed by Authy Android before 25.1.0 and Authy iOS before 26.1.0, an unauthenticated endpoint provided access to certain phone number data as exploited in the wild in June 2024. Specifically, the endpoint accepted a stream of requests containing phone numbers and responded with information about whether each phone number was registered with Authy. It is worth noting that Authy accounts were not compromised. If you are an Authy user, please be aware of smishing campaigns that may take advantage of these leaked phone numbers. The second vulnerability added to the Known Exploited Vulnerability Catalog is much older and is from 2012, CVE 2012-4792. The NVD for this notes that use after free vulnerability in Microsoft Internet Explorer 6 through 8 allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary code via a crafted website that triggers access to an object that 1. was not properly allocated, or 2. is deleted, as demonstrated by a CDWN bind info object and exploited in the wild in December 2012. To be honest, I'm not sure why this was bumped up on the CISA KEV catalog. However, from experience, it generally means that they have been seeing this exploited more recently in some unpatched systems, or maybe this vulnerability was reintroduced. As always, ensure you are practicing good patch management. Alright everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode of the Cybersecurity Digest. As mentioned earlier, all links and articles mentioned in this show are in the show notes. Additionally, you can head to thecybersecuritydigest.com to find all of our links, as well as links to this podcast in your podcast platform of choice. If you wouldn't mind, I would greatly appreciate you leaving this show a rating on your podcast platform of choice, as well as sharing this with somebody you know who may benefit from the content. As stated previously, the goal is to release episodes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Please note that I do record these the evening prior, so like last Friday, whenever I missed a Crowdstrike blue screen incident on that day, I apologize for that, but I'll cover it in the next episode, so don't worry. Alright, before you head on out, here is your midweek dad joke. I told my friend I built a model of the Himalayas. He asked if it was a scale, and I said no, it's just a look at. Alright, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, stay informed to stay secure.